Hi friends, welcome to CodAffection. In this Python Django tutorial, we will implement RESTful API CRUD operations with Postgres using web methods get, post, put and delete. If you find this video helpful, please thumbs up this video, and for more awesome videos like this, please be subscribed to this channel CodAffection. For this app development, I will be using Visual Studio Code Editor. First of all, we have to create the Django project inside this folder directory. For that, we have to open command prompt from this folder directory. So here we have the shortcut, hold shift, then right click. Then you may see the option open command window here. In my case, it is showing PowerShell instead of command prompt due to the latest Windows 10 update. I prefer command prompt instead of PowerShell. So in my case, I will use another shortcut. Inside this folder directory here, just type cmd, then hit enter. So it will open the command prompt from the same folder directory here. First of all, we have to provide the Python virtual environment. So here it is. We have to work on Django env. Now let's create the project using this command, Django-admin start project. After that, we have to provide a name for this project. It will be something RESTful API CRUD. Hit enter. As a result of the execution, you should see a folder RESTful API here. Now let's navigate inside the folder RESTful API CRUD. Now in order to open this folder RESTful API CRUD in Visual Studio Code Editor, you can do this code space period, hit enter. So here we have opened the Visual Studio Code Editor from the same folder directory RESTful API CRUD. As a first step inside every Django project, we have to create an application here. So let's create the application inside this project. So first of all, we have to open a terminal. Now in order to create an application, you can execute this command, python manage.py, then start app, then name the application here. We will be dealing with employee details inside the application. So I will name the application as employee API. Hit enter. Since we have created an application here, we have to mention that inside this project file settings.py here. Inside this file, we have this array installed apps, where we have to mention the newly created app name. So I will do that here, employee API. Now we have to treat this application as a Django RESTful Framework API. For that, we have to install the package Django RESTful Framework. So here is the command to install the package pip install Django REST Framework. I have already installed this Django framework globally inside my system. Now we only have to mention that inside this installed apps array here. So we just need to do this rest_framework. So here we have the base configuration for Django RESTful API. In order to demonstrate this API CRUD operations, we will be using PostgreSDB. So first of all, in order to work with Postgres from a Django project, we have to install this package pip psychopg2. Hit enter. I have already installed this package psychopg2 inside my system. If you are working with Postgres for the first time, you have to install this package using this pip installation command. As a database management tool for PostgreSDB, I have installed this pgadmin. So let me open that here. So here we are inside the pgadmin. Let's create a new database. I will name this DB as RESTful API DB. Click on save. There will be a small delay. After that, you can see the newly created DB here, RESTful API DB. Now back to the project. Inside this file, we have to provide the database connection details here. So here we have the object database. Inside that, we have the property default. Instead of SQLite, we will be using PostgreSQL. So we have to update that here, PostgreSQL. After that, we have to provide the name of the DB here. So it would be restful API DB. Just below that, we have to provide the credentials, user and password. It will be Postgres. Then after that, we have the password. It is also Postgres. And finally, we have to set the host. Since we have the database inside the same system, we can set that as local host. Now we have to do the DB migration. Inside every Django project, you can see some default applications that you can see inside this array install apps here. Inside these applications, there are some models for user authentication, authorization, registration, etc. So first of all, we will do the migration for those default models. So in order to do the migration, we have to execute this command python manage.py. Then we just need to execute this command migrate. Before executing this command, make sure that you have saved this file settings.py. Now let's execute this. After the command execution, you can see the newly created tables. So let's refresh this tables node here. Inside that, we have 10 tables from default applications inside the project. Now for this RESTful API, we have to create a model regarding employee details. So that we can do inside the models, inside the application employee API. So we just need to do this class employee, and we have to inherit this class from models. So we can do this models.model. Inside this class, we have to add properties corresponding to each column we have to add inside the table. So first of all, we have full name. Now, in order to set the data type of the column, we can do this models.cap field. So inside this column full name, we can add string data. Inside this instance constructor, we have to provide the max length. So inside this column maximum, we can have 100 characters. After that, we have employee code. For that, we have this property emp_code. So models.cap field, and max length will be 3. And finally, we have this property mobile. Let me copy this. We can remove this comma at the end since we are just defining properties for this class here. For mobile, max length will be 15. Now, in order to create this employee table, we have to do the migration again. We can execute 2 commands: make migrations, the name of the application, employee API. Make migrations, hit enter. Now we just need to execute this python manage.py migrate. In order to see the newly created table corresponding to the employee model class here, back to the PG admin, just refresh this tables node here. So here we have the table employee. Let me execute the select star statement. Currently inside this table, we don't have any row. So you can see the columns corresponding to the model property that we have mentioned here: full name, employee code, and mobile. So you can see all of those columns here. Apart from that, you can see the automatically created column ID as a primary key for the table. It will start from 1 and incremented by 1 upon new record insertion. It is managed by the Django ORM itself. Now let's deal with the API CRUD operations, which is the meat of this tutorial. We have CRUD. So first of all, we have C, which is for create, or insert, or you can say add. Meaning with this create or insert or add operation, we have to add a new record inside this employee table. For that, we will be using the web method get. After that, we have retrieve. Meaning with this operation, we have to retrieve or fetch all of the records which we have already inserted into the employee table. In order to do this operation, we also use the get web method. After retrieve, we have update, or you can say edit operation. Meaning with update or edit operation, we are going to update a record using its primary key. In order to do this operation, we can make use of the web method put. Sorry, my mistake. For this create or insert operation, we have to make the post request instead of get. Okay. And finally, here we have the delete operation or remove operation. To delete a record, we have to use the web method delete. Okay, so these are the 4 web methods associated with each CRUD operations. So let's look how to implement these get, post, put, and delete web methods inside a Django REST framework. As a next step, we have to define serializers inside this application. For that, I will create a new Python file here, serializer.py. So when we work with API, the situation will be something like this. We will have an API and we will have an external application which has the capability to work with the API. It will be a mobile app, or it might be a web app, or whatever the app or system or the technology which has the ability to communicate with the API here. So inside this system, there is a two-way communication of response and request. So in most of the case, this data flow will be either in JSON or XML format. Inside this application, we will be dealing with JSON data. Okay, so before sending data from API to this external app, we have to convert the Python representation of data into JSON. When we receive JSON from this external app into the API, we'll convert the JSON into Python representation of data. So in order to do this conversion from Python representation, in most of the case, it would be Python query set, and we have to convert that into JSON and JSON to Python representation, so back and forth. So serializers is used to define how do we want to do this conversion of data. So let's do that here. First of all, we have to import corresponding classes. So first of all, we have to import from this rest_framework, and here we have to import serializers, and after that we have to import this model class employee also. So we can do this from models. We have to import employee model class. Now let's create the class employee serializer, and we have to inherit the parent class for serializer here, serializers.model serializer. And here we have to configure how do we want to do the conversion. For that, we can use this meta class here. First of all, we have to provide the corresponding model class, which is employee. Inside this model class, we have these much properties: full name, EMP code, mobile. Apart from that, we have the primary column ID. So using this field property here, we can mention what are the columns we want to include inside this serializer. If you want to include all of those columns, you just have to provide this __all__. If you need few of those properties, you can mention that inside this tuple here, like ID, then full name, etc. In this case, we have to include all of those columns. So I will use this __all__. Now we have to define an employee viewset class. First of all, I will define the class, and after that we can discuss the need of this viewset class. So first of all, we will create a file viewsets.py file. First of all, we have to add the corresponding import statement from REST framework. We have to import viewsets. Beneath that, we have to import model classes, and then we have to import serializers, Now let's define the class employee viewset, and we have to import this class from viewsets.modelViewset. Now inside this class we have to set the query set. Query set is equal to models.employee model. From that we can access these objects and we will call this function all. After that we have to mention the serializer for this class, which is serializers.employee serializer. So here we have the definition for employee viewset class. Here we have retrieved all of the employee record and assigned into this query set here. And with this serializer class initialization, we are telling we have to use this employee serializer for the JSON conversion for this employee viewset. By defining this viewset for employee, it will internally create few classes like list, then retrieve, then create, then it will create update function and destroy. So in brief, this employee viewset class will create these classes for various web methods like get, post, put and delete. This list function will be used to retrieve all of the records which we have inside the employee table. In order to retrieve a single record with given ID, this retrieve function will be used. Okay, then in order to create a new record, this function will be invoked, and for update operation this function will be invoked, and in order to delete a record, this destroy function will be invoked. So that's all about the brief description for this view set. Now we have to map URLs into these view set functions inside the application. So let's look how to do configuration for routing inside this application. For that, I will create a new file inside this project folder here, router.py. Inside this file, first of all, we will import all of these view sets from our application folder. So here it is, from employee name of the, which is the name of the application. Here we are inside the project folder here. Now we have to access this viewset.py file inside this application folder. So first of all, we have to provide the namespace or the name of the app. Inside that we have this viewsets. From that we have to import employee viewset, and we have to import routers from REST framework. So here it is, REST framework, and we have to import routers. This routing configuration is also made simple by Django framework. We just have to do this. First of all, we will define this property router, and we will initialize that with this default router function, default router, and after that we can register the routes. Register function can be called from this router variable, and first of all we have to give the prefix employee, and then we can provide the employee view set here. We can discuss what happens inside this routing configuration here once I map this to the base URLs.py file inside this project folder here. Inside this you can already see a mapping, URL mapping for admin applications. Just beneath that we can add this path, and here we have the base route API / and all of the requests which starts with API / we have to handle that inside this router.py file here. For that, first of all, we will import this include function also, and we can do this include, and here we have to import this router which we have just created. So from .router file we have to import router variable which we have created, and we can pass that here. Inside this router object we will have a function URLs. It will return all of the URLs for this API. So back to the router.py file here. So basically we will have the base URL something like localhost, then port number something 3000, then / and inside these URLs here we have the base path as API. So API So all of the requests which starts with this format will be handled inside this router.py file. That is what we have done here. So after calling this function register inside this router variable, we will have a function URLs. That is what we have called here. So it will return all of the path for this REST API. It will be of the type get, then post, then update, then delete. So these are the basic web methods inside a RESTful API. So all of these web methods are mapped to corresponding viewset functions which we have mentioned before. So this get function will be mapped either to list function or retrieve function. Okay, for this list function we have to make the request like this /employee. So this URL prefix is mentioned inside this register function as a first parameter. So if the request is like this list function will be mapped. So all of the records from employee will be returned. In order to call this retrieve function, here we are trying to get details of a single record, so we have to pass the ID. So in this case, this retrieve function will be called. Both of these functions will be handled get requests. After that, we have the post web method for creating a new record. In order to update a record, this update function inside this viewset function will be invoked, and finally we have the delete operation. So all of these web methods are mapped to their respective functions inside this viewset. Now let me save all of these modifications. Now let's run this application using this command python manage.py run server. So here we have successfully started the server. In order to open this inside the web browser, hold Ctrl then click on this URL here, and here we have the base route API /employee. I think we have a problem inside the serializer. Let's check that here. Instead of fields, we have to use fields. Save, back to the app, reload this, boom. So here we have made the get request. Usually it should return all of the records inside the employee table. Currently you can see that inside this table we don't have any record. So that is why we can see this empty array here. In order to insert a new record, we have to make a post request. For that we need a form. So that is why we can see the form here. So let me insert a new record, something Fiona Green. Employee code will be something FG, then mobile number will be something 555 Let's make the post request. So this page is refreshed. As a result of that, you can see the newly inserted record. We can see the same if you execute this select star statement inside the DB. Here it is. So this interface is for testing purpose of the API. In most of the case, we will make this request from an outside application. It might be a mobile app or a website, whatever. We have to make that from an outside application. So let's look how to do that from an outside application. In most of the case, in order to test an API, we will use Postman. So here is my Postman. Now let's make the get request to retrieve all of the records. So first of all, I will make the get request, and we have to provide the corresponding URL. I will copy that from here. I will paste that here, send here. That's it. You can see the status code 200 OK, and here we have the response. It is an array containing objects of the type employee. Now let's check remaining web methods. First of all, I will make the post request. So I will just duplicate this tab here. We have to make the post request. The URL will be similar. Make sure to add this / here. We have to set the header here. So first of all, we have to mention the type of the data, whether it is JSON or XML. So first of all, we have content type, and we can set that here application / JSON. Now inside this body part, we have to send the JSON data. So you can select this row here, and here we have selected the JSON, and we can pass the JSON object here. First of all, we have full name. It will be something John Smith. Then we have EMP code. It will be something JS. And finally, we have mobile. It will be something 555. Now let's make this post request. Send. Boom. So here we have the status code 201 created. And here we have the response JSON object containing details of new employee with the corresponding primary key ID value as 2. Now let's make this GET request again. It should return all of the records. Currently we have 2 employee records. Now if you want to retrieve a single specific record with a given ID, you can use the GET request like this. Let me duplicate this. We just have to provide the ID after this employee /. So here we have the employee details of the ID 1. For employee 2, you can do this. Now if you want to update a record, you have to make the put request. So let me duplicate this. Yes, now I remember, here we have a typo. Instead of update, corresponding verb method will be put. Okay, back to the Postman. Now let's make the put request. So if you want to update this employee record with given ID 2, you have to provide the URL like this. And for this update operation, we are going to send a JSON object. So we have to set the content type as JSON, and inside this body, we can provide the corresponding object. Here I will just add few asterisk marks along with the full name here. Now let's make the request. Something went wrong, that is why you can see this status 500 internal server error. Yes, don't forget to add the / at the end. You can ignore this / for request of the type GET. Now let's make this put request. That's it. You can see the updated record. You can see the same if you make this GET request again. You see here we have the updated value of employee name. Let's make the delete operation. So let me duplicate this tab here, and this is for delete operation. So I will make this web method delete, and the URL will be something like this. Employee ID with 2 will be deleted. Let's make this delete request. We have deleted the record successfully. That is why you can see this status 204 no content. Let's check that here. See, we have deleted the employee with ID 2. So that's all about the Django REST framework, or abbreviated as DRF CRUD operations with PostgreSDB. We have discussed all of the web methods: get, put, post, and delete. I hope you won't need this demonstration project source code, even though I have given the corresponding GitHub Repository link in video description. If you found this video helpful, please thumbs up this video, and for more awesome videos like this, please be subscribed to this channel CodAffection. Please share this video with your friends and colleagues so that they can benefit from this. Have a nice day. Bye.